I checked into the Moonlight Inn after a long business trip, exhausted and ready for bed. The room was simple, with a queen bed and a large mirror above the dresser. Something about the mirror unsettled me. It was too large, too ornate for such a modest room. But I was too tired to care. As I brushed my teeth, I noticed something strange. My reflection in the mirror seemed delayed, like it lagged just a second behind my movements. I told myself it was my imagination, turned off the light, and climbed into bed. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of soft whispers. They were coming from the mirror. I stared at it, paralyzed. My reflection wasn't lying down. It was standing, staring back at me with a sinister grin. I scrambled out of bed, but my reflection didn't move. Instead, it stepped out of the mirror. I backed into the corner, heart pounding. The figure moved closer, its grin widening. "What do you want?" I whispered. It didn't answer, just pointed to the mirror. When I looked, I saw myself trapped inside, pounding on the glass. The figure leaned in close, its voice a raspy whisper. "It's your turn now." Before I could scream, everything went dark. When I woke up, I was staring out from the other side of the mirror, watching as another guest checked into the room. I screamed and pounded on the glass, but my cries went unheard. The new guest, a young woman in her early 20s, walked into the room, oblivious to my presence in the mirror. She seemed uneasy as she looked around, her eyes lingering on the large, ornate frame. For a fleeting moment, her gaze locked onto mine. Her expression shifted, confusion giving way to unease. Could she see me? "Hello," she whispered, stepping closer to the mirror. I tried to shout a warning, to tell her to leave, but my voice was muffled, like yelling underwater. The harder I pounded, the more the glass seemed to absorb the sound. The lights in the room flickered, and the temperature dropped. She shivered and glanced over her shoulder, sensing something was wrong. But instead of running, she leaned in closer to the mirror. Her reflection smiled, even though her lips didn't move. My heart sank as I watched the scene unfold. She was about to fall into the same trap. "Get out!" I mouthed desperately, but it was too late. The reflection stepped out of the glass, the same twisted grin spreading across its face. The girl gasped, stumbling backward. "What the?" The reflection lunged, grabbing her by the arm. She screamed, struggling against its grip, but it was impossibly strong. I could only watch in horror as it dragged her toward the mirror. She clawed at the floor, pleading for help, but no one came. With one final pull, the reflection yanked her into the glass, and the room fell silent. Now she was in the mirror too, her face pressed against the glass beside mine. Her wide, terrified eyes met mine, and I saw the realization dawn on her. We were trapped. The reflection, now free and wearing her face, adjusted its posture and smiled at the empty room. It picked up her purse and calmly left, leaving us behind in the cold, reflective prison. Days turned into weeks, or at least that's what it felt like. Time was meaningless in the mirror. We screamed, we begged, but no one could hear us. Then, the door opened again, and another guest stepped inside. My heart sank. The cycle was about to repeat. This is how it works. The mirror doesn't just reflect, it takes. It feeds on us, trapping our souls and using our bodies as vessels to lure in the next victim. I don't know how long I'll be here. Maybe forever. But if you ever find yourself in a motel room with a large, ornate mirror, don't look too closely. And whatever you do, don't trust your reflection. I had been driving for hours, exhausted and barely able to keep my eyes open, when I spotted the flickering neon sign of a roadside motel. It was called Sunset Haven, but the peeling paint and dimly lit parking lot suggested it hadn't seen much haven in decades. I pulled in, desperate for rest. The lobby was eerily quiet. A bell sat on the desk, and when I rang it, an older man emerged from the back room. He didn't say much, just handed me a key with a faded 217 tag attached. As I walked down the dim hallway, a strange sensation crept over me. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing against my chest. I brushed it off, telling myself I was just overtired. Room 217 was at the very end of the hall. Inside, the room was surprisingly clean but unsettlingly dated. A floral bedspread, an old CRT television, and a single painting of a wooded landscape hung on the wall. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the hum of the ceiling fan. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. I felt, watched. My eyes drifted to the painting. Was it closer than before? I laughed at myself, and and turned off the light. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a faint scratching sound. It was coming from the painting. I turned on the lamp, heart pounding. The trees in the painting looked darker, the path through the woods narrower. I told myself it was a trick of the light, but then I saw it, a shadowy figure deep in the painted woods moving. I froze, unable to breathe. Suddenly, the figure stepped closer to the frame. Its hollow eyes locked onto mine. I jumped up, yanking the painting off the wall, only to reveal a hole. From the darkness of the hole, I heard faint breathing. I screamed, dropping the painting, and stumbled out of the room. The hallway was pitch black. My phone's flashlight barely illuminated the way. As I turned the corner toward the lobby, I saw him, the shadowy figure, standing motionless. I ran past him, not daring to look back. The old man at the desk was gone. The entire place felt abandoned. I made it to my car, heart racing, and sped off without looking back. But as I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw something, or someone, sitting in the back seat. I swerved to a stop, spinning around, but the seat was empty. I drove for hours, the image of the shadowy figure burned into my mind. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched for Sunset Haven Motel online. There was no record of it ever existing. But I swear I still feel it sometimes. The heavy air, the oppressive silence, and the faint scratching sound in the night. It was supposed to be a quick stop. I had no intention of staying the night, but when my car broke down miles from the nearest town, the Cedar Pines Motel was my only option. The front desk clerk was a young woman who seemed nervous, her eyes darting around as she handed me the key to room 9. "Lock the door," she said, her voice trembling. The room was small and smelled faintly of mildew. The bed was lumpy and the wallpaper was peeling, but it would do for one night. I locked the door as instructed and settled in. Around midnight, I heard it, a soft tapping on the window. I froze, my heart pounding. The curtains were drawn, but I could see a faint shadow. I called the front desk, but the line was dead. I approached the window cautiously, pulling back the curtain. There was nothing there. Relieved but uneasy, I returned to bed. Minutes later, the tapping started again, this time on the door. "Who's there?" I called, my voice shaking. No response, just more tapping. I grabbed the bedside lamp as a makeshift weapon and approached the door. Peering through the peephole, I saw nothing. Suddenly, the tapping stopped. The silence was deafening. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the lamp, when I heard the doorknob rattle. "Let me in," a voice whispered, low and guttural. I backed away, my pulse racing. The door creaked open, even though I was sure I'd locked it. I watched in horror as the door swung wide, revealing a tall, shadowy figure. I screamed and threw the lamp. The figure vanished, as if it had never been there. I bolted from the room, running to the lobby. The clerk was gone, but a man sat behind the desk. He looked up, confused. "This motel has been closed for years," he said. "It's condemned." I turned to leave, but the figure was there, waiting in the doorway.